afternoon. You're listening to Mina Listed by Mina Kuper. We're about real estate, trust, probate, divorce, and more. And today I want to share, people are moving, right? Coming and going, and businesses are coming and going. And so I feel that it was very important to have my guest that I'm going to be speaking with momentarily on the show. Barbara at Kane Consulting, it's her firm. She is a commercial real estate broker and focuses on relocation management and project management for people and businesses. Because the people go with the businesses, right? Or they can sell the business, I guess, and have them, stay here, whatever. But anyway, but Barbara, I'm gonna let you take over because I think you're gonna better explain it than I. So tell us more
Okay.
about your business.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So my business is Kane Consulting and Kane Commercial Real Estate. We've been in business 20 years. And we have three main focuses. One is commercial real estate brokerage. We mainly represent tenants in leases, so office space, retail space, industrial space. And that's our focus, is to renew, find new locations, reduce, help companies sublease, especially in this market with COVID-19 and many employees still working from home and probably working from home probably through the summer or the beginning of the summer. At least that's what a lot of the big techs are talking about. So we focus on leasing. We also focus then on project management. So once we find a company that needs new space or needs to remodel it, we help them design it, bringing in architects and contractors and technology people to get their space all set up, furniture, plants, artwork, all of it. And then the last thing we do is move planning and move coordination. And if you think about what it takes to move a business, whether it's 5 people or thousands of people, there's a lot of planning involved. And for businesses, it's all about time and not being down and making sure that they could literally pack up on a Friday and come into their new office on Monday morning and have phones, technology, and all of their stuff ready to roll and unpack in 2 hours and not lose any time. So it's all about time because in business, time is money.
So how
And
long?
that's the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and that's the core of, I'm sorry, that's the core of what we do.
And how long have you been in business and what made you start this business?
We have been in business a little over 20 years. And I started the business because I felt that there was a need to help companies that didn't have a specialty person for when they need to relocate their company. They can hire a real estate broker, much like myself, but then once that deal is in process, they need to figure out, okay, well, where do we need walls and where do we need electrical plugs and where are we going to put, the conference table, and is the conference table going to have a conference phone on it, and we don't want the cord, coming across the wall to the table as a trip hazard. There's all kinds of details. And then, of course, planning the move. And so my thought was that there's these small to mid-sized companies that needed this particular service. My life before going into business 20 years was working for corporations such as HealthNet and Fremont General Corporation and Candle Corporation. And so I was the director of real estate. So I have a really good understanding of what companies deal with when they're faced with some sort of relocation. So that's what made me start it. And our niche is small to mid-sized companies.
And for people seeking your type of profession to engage, what would be the minimum would you say? Like, give us an example of someone who would need, how many people do you think? What does it look like? Is it 10 people that need to move? Is it 20, 30, 40 people that need to move? Tell us like your sweet spot for a lot of these, people with businesses.
It really ranges. I just signed a deal with a law firm in Beverly Hills. There's 4 people moving. They're a high-end law firm, and they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the design or the movers or the technology people. And then on the other side of that, we've moved companies as big as Symantec, Norton Antivirus Software, 1,000 people and 18 computer labs that were under a time frame. We've moved the Grammys, the Recording Academy. We've moved a lot of production entertainment companies. But to answer your question, I guess our sweet spot is somewhere between 35 people and 150 people. But again, we move all sizes, all types. We do a lot of law firms, and in fact, a lot of big law firms that have 300-400 attorneys.
Wow.
So it kind of really ranges as far as number of employees. It really comes down to, do they have the expertise in-house? And then if they do have the expertise in-house, do those people have time for, say, 60 to 90 days to dedicate on planning every little detail of the move? And most times they don't. And they don't want to forfeit, that system not coming up on Monday morning after a move, because companies can lose thousands and tens of thousands, and if they're big enough, millions of dollars for every hour that they're down.
So, do you do the moves out of state as well?
We do. We have some national clients that have offices throughout the United States, and we've done moves. I'm working on one right now in Honolulu. And and believe it or not, we did a move in New York City in May of 2020. Think about that
My
for a minute.
hometown.
Yeah, well, think of the date, May
Yeah.
of 2020,
Wow.
in the heart of COVID. Yeah, it was actually the Recording Academy, the Grammys had an office. They had to move, and they hired us. And so I flew out, and, it's interesting to see New York City with no cabs and no people during the pandemic. But we got our movers in, and we got them to pack them up and move their stuff out of their office space into storage so that they wouldn't be continuing to pay rent with nobody there.
My goodness. So what do you see, because we're still, we know things are getting better. And the dust is settling a bit. Juice, what do you see landlords doing? The lease is going to go down, giving concessions to attract new tenants. Or are they looking to sell their properties because it just doesn't service them anymore and they want to do other things? I mean, what do you see with all this?
Well, the landlords are sticking strong. They've got some great investments. They want to keep them. So what the landlords are doing is they are dropping rents slightly, although their lenders have to approve any drop in rent because they still have to make their loan payments. But we see the landlords offering more concessions, such as free rent, maybe a few more tenant improvements than would normally be given. I've even seen some landlords pay for our services on the relocation side, that they would give, somewhere like $1 a square foot to relocate the client into their building. And of course, clients that have made it through the last year of the pandemic and paid their rent on time, those landlords really want to keep those tenants because they're like gold.
Right.
So they're not necessarily renegotiating their lease, but they're doing whatever they can to try to keep the tenants.
And what advice would you give people, businesses that are looking for retail or industrial space at this time?
Well, there's a lot of retail, as you can imagine. The retail industry has been hit very, very
Mm-hmm.
hard, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, so if someone wants to go into a retail space, there's a lot of it out there, and there's great pricing to be negotiated. Never pay what it says on paper or on a database. It's why someone needs what I would call myself as a tenant representative
Mm-hmm.
to negotiate that rate down, because in fact that rate is always just an asking rate. It's never the rate that anybody should ever pay. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, there's a lot of retail out there that can be negotiated. Typically on retail spaces, there are no tenant improvements, or
Mm-hmm.
there's very little. Um, the industrial world, though, is the opposite. There's very little industrial space
Mm-hmm.
because of e-commerce and places like Amazon that are buying up and leasing up wherever they can find warehousing and industrial space to house product, as are, many businesses that are coming out of retail and going online. They need a place to house product.
Mm-hmm.
So industrial's really a tight market. In fact, it was a tight market even before COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's even tighter.
Wow. So the other question is, what happens? People are in a lease, and of course, the COVID happened, and they can no longer afford it. Well, what do you do? They're personally liable. I mean, what do you do with that? How do you gracefully do something?
Well, I've been on a lot of Zoom calls with real estate attorneys, and one of the main pieces of advice that they give businesses is determine if you have a business after COVID. If you
Mm-hmm.
think you have a business, a valid business, then negotiate with your landlord to maybe give you 3-4 months of abated rent, which will probably have to be tacked on to the lease at the end, but at
Mm-hmm.
least it could give you some initial relief. But the other piece is, if you have a business that's failing
Right.
and you do not think it's going to make it, then the best thing to do is to, number one, try to sublease the space, and number two, try to negotiate with your landlord an early buyout.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you can't just walk away from it.
Right.
You'd really have to go into bankruptcy, or the landlord would typically come after you or the business, depending on whose name the lease is in. So it's a really sticky situation for a lot of
Wow.
people.
I know.
Um, and yeah, so you have to, like I said, it's one of two questions. Do you have a business? If you do, stay current, negotiate. If you don't have a business anymore, then see if you can sublease your space
Mm-hmm.
out, or negotiate something with your landlord
Mm-hmm.
for an early buyout and get out.
And do you, from time to time, manage homeowner relocations?
We do. It's not. It hasn't been our core business.
Mm-hmm.
However, I see us pivoting a little bit from that perspective, in that the higher end homeowners really, really appreciate the services that we provide, because they really don't want to deal with
Right.
the packing and the supervising and the physical move and then the unpacking. And so we find that we have been helping more and more homeowners on relocation management, but it has been more of the higher end
Yes.
um, individual that is willing to pay for the service.
Right. And with what I do with my real estate services, I'm certified trust, probate, divorce, but I also obviously do just your regular real estate deals, traditional, I often include that in my real estate services. So I will take care of all that with no out-of-pocket
Oh, really?
expenses. Yeah. I don't think we discussed that.
That's
Right.
yeah. So do you actually hire the mover or hire someone to coordinate the mover?
I could do whatever, is necessary depending on, sometimes people have very valuable items and they have to be moved differently. And someone like yourself would be very important because we want to make sure it gets transported without being broken or lost. And all these type of variables that are in larger estates. When I say larger
That
estates, homes that are larger. I mean, listen, I can come from a two-bedroom and I need someone to manage my move. So, I mean, I don't know anyone that doesn't want anyone managing their move. I don't care how small or big it is. But certainly, I would think anything over, over 2,000 square feet, 3,000 square feet, when you have been there for a long time, and it certainly accumulates, and that is one heck of a job, I'll tell you. It really is. It requires a team, and it does, definitely. Yeah, I step in wherever I need to step in. So I'm here, my clients hire me to be their real estate agent and to provide them the services that will make their move comfortable and not stressful, but happy.
makes a lot of sense. That's a great service to offer. If
Yeah.
we can help you at any point,
Yeah.
let us know.
Yeah, we should definitely powwow. And I know while we're on the radio at 98.1 FM and 1220 AM, people that have Facebook can also go on Facebook at KHTS and comment with you. And please let everybody know how can they reach you. What's a good way for them to reach you? And also, there's an app, a KHTS app, that they can download if they're not in the area to listen to 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. So there's many ways for us to have outreach to people. But what's a good way for people to reach you, Barbara? And you're so wonderful to talk to. Game planning with you is, I mean, it's fun in itself. And so many people are moving around right now that it's so important to have someone like you.
Thank you. Well, the best way, I mean, I have a LinkedIn page. I've got a Facebook page. People can call me.
Yeah, what's a good phone number?
But
That's probably the easiest to take down. And you can go on the comments and write down all your information after and chime in with some people, asking them if anyone needs your
okay,
services. You'd be more than happy to help them. So if you can tell me that.
sure. I'll add it as well. It's our office number is 310-371-0660, and our website is www.kaneconsulting.net.
Awesome.
And that's the best way to get to
So
us.
awesome. Thank you, Barbara, from Barbara Kane Consulting, moving relocation specialist. I am excited to talk to you more in the next couple of days. So I think we can do some fabulous things for people together. And I'm so grateful to have you on the show. And we're going to be taking a commercial break, and I will see you soon.
Thanks, Mina. It was my pleasure.
My pleasure, too.
Okay.
Facey knows life gets busy. Let us go to work for you in the Santa Clarita Valley. We have 34 primary care physicians and 55 specialty doctors in 4 offices. And Facey has easy 24/7 online appointment scheduling for PCPs and PEDS with some extended hour appointments available. We are Facey Medical Group. Let us go to work for you today. For more information or to make an appointment, visit facey.com. That's FACEY.com.
When it comes to buying or selling your home, there's no room for error with your money. That's why Precision Escrow is the company you need to know. When selling your home, you want to make sure you're working with a company that has your best interest and keeps your money safe. That's why they use encrypted emails and secure trust accounting. Precision Escrow will follow the contract in detail from the beginning to the end and protect the parties involved involved. Working with Precision is like working with a huge family. Everyone is always smiling and cohesively working together for you. Check out their 5-star Yelp and Google reviews and see how they separate themselves from the competition. Whether you use an agent or sell your home yourself, they'll give you 30% off your transaction, which saves you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Use code RADIO30 to take advantage of the savings. Call Lauren Fredette, your representative, for more details. She's available 7 days a week during and after office hours. Call toll-free 877-393-4101. Let them help you through one of the most important decisions of your life.
At Substrata, they're dedicated to be your go-to general contractor. They are a premier builder of high-end custom homes from the ground up, major remodels and expansions, multi-unit construction, and commercial tenant improvements for both retail and office build-out. Their focus on details and personal attention have been constant from conception of the project to completion. They build stories not with pen and keyboard, but with steel and manpower. Visit substrata.com or call 424-702-5700.
Felicia Gerardo Insurance Agency specializes in your small business, homeowners, auto, umbrella, and life insurance needs. Their personalized staff is passionate to help you save money while keeping all your valuable assets covered. During these times, many people are concerned about insurance and getting the best value for their dollar. Felicia Gerardo's Insurance Agency understands this and approaches each situation uniquely. Felicia Gerardo's Insurance Agency has friendly hometown customer service reps that are ready to help you today. 661-288-2001.
La Rocca Inspections provides 4 of the most needed inspections when buying or selling real estate, and homeowners love their property reviews. Since 1994, they serve the greater Los Angeles area and its 100-plus communities. Schedule residential or commercial inspections for your comprehensive reports. Their inspections can save you money on repairs. Go to laroccainspections.com and download the free guide to inspections. Call now for your free quote, 818-951-1795.
Your hometown station.
KHTS is the only station I listen to.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming back and listening to me. You're listening to Listed by Mina Kuper. We're about trust, probate, divorce, and more, and real estate. And you're listening to 98.1 FM, 1220 AM. I have an amazing person who I'm part of her fan club, I think. Crista Hermance is amazing. She is a trust, estate, probate attorney and a mom. And she does it all, and she does it well. And I think she definitely trumps me. She's got it going on, you know.
Well, thank you.
Krista, thank you so much for joining me today. You know, I want to talk, I know we talked about estate planning and, you know, all that jazz, and I'm involved in that with the real estate, and we're working together on some things. And what is an estate plan, and what is trust and probate, and who's the executor and the administrator? People get all confused, and the will and a pour over will. You know, however you think is better to explain to everyone the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So estate planning is kind of like, I like to think of it as this concept. And within an estate plan are all of these legal documents that all have important roles to be able to help you identify who you want to be able to step in if you needed help in very specific situations. And so you named a lot of the documents that people talk about all the time, really kind of throwing them out there and don't really know what they do. So an estate plan is made up of a will, a trust, advanced healthcare directive, power of attorney, HIPAA authorization, all of these documents that all do very specific certain things. And really the point in having them for a lot of people is just making sure that if something happened, their wishes are legally documented the way that they would want things to be handled and distributed, what their choice was. And without having legal documents in place, that's where families can have issues, and there can be a lot of involvement with probate court, which costs a lot of money to go through. And so one of the things that we do with estate planning is try and avoid probate. And if it's done properly, we can actually do that.
Oh, that would be definitely key, because especially now with COVID, I know the courts were definitely on hold.
Yes.
And it caused a lot of a lot of time passing, which isn't always a good thing in these circumstances. And, I know there have been issues where people discussed when they're doing an estate plan, a trust, and, they're leaving someone in charge,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
And how do they know that person's going to follow through with it, right? Who's the babysitter?
Yeah. So, well, when you have a trust, the trust, and just so people kind of understand when you think about trust, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, I don't really need a trust because I don't have that much money, right? I don't have that kind of wealth that I need that. And so I like to explain the trust is basically just an agreement where you have the grantor, which is the creator of the trust. They put specific instructions to the trustee, which is the person you just talked about, and they agree to hold legal title to all of the assets in their trust. And they do this for the benefit of the beneficiaries. So while you are alive and you have a revocable living trust, you are all three of those roles. You are the grantor, meaning you created it. You are the trustee, meaning you are in complete control over all of the assets in your trust, and it's all for your benefit. It's only if something happened that your successor trustee or executor, like you said, steps in to be able to follow your instructions and make the distributions and do the things that they need to do according to your terms in your trust. So it's really meant for anybody if they're over the age of 18, but especially if they own a home or have minor children. It's very important. And so your question about how do you know? Well, you don't, but there are things that are in place that if somebody wasn't doing the things that they needed to do, then there could be court involvement where somebody would file a petition with the court to try and figure out what was going on with the trustee. And sometimes that does happen where, maybe beneficiaries aren't getting the things that they think they should be getting, or they're not getting the information that they need to, and they need help, and they go to court for that. But it is important to try and find a trustee or an executor that you trust, right? They have all of the power if something were to happen. Yeah. If you can't find somebody, there are professional fiduciaries or professional trustees that can do that for you. And I have clients that they don't have anybody they would trust, and they want it managed by somebody outside of the family.
Right. Just so, there's a middle person involved.
And where they have no benefit from it, right? And so there's no stake in the game for them for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I know people get a little confused between will and trust, and a pour over will in a trust. And so those are terms, people like, just get a will? I'm like, well, no, you're not necessarily, you can have both.
Yes.
It depends on what you have. Maybe you should talk to an estate attorney.
Yes.
I am not one, although I get involved in the real estate assets. So can you explain to the audience what that is?
Yeah. So probably one of the biggest questions and kind of misconceptions that, all I really need is a will. So a will is basically just a legal document where you state who you want to be your personal representative if something were to happen to you. They're basically in charge of having to go through probate court. It also allows you to identify guardians if you have minor children, and it allows you to say how you want your stuff distributed. So if you have, kids or family members you would want to give it to, that's listed in there. That is a will. When somebody passes away, and it's only once they pass away, the will is filed with the probate court. That therefore starts the probate process.
Right.
In California, which is where I'm licensed to practice, the probate process can take anywhere from 1 to 2 years to complete, and we're seeing even longer times right now with COVID. It could go up to 3 years, and that's with an uncontested basic, just one house distribution that it has to go through all of this because the courts are so backed up. And it costs a lot of money to go through probate. If let's just say that you had an estate where you owned a home, and when I say own, I don't mean you own it outright, but maybe you have a mortgage, okay, and you pass away with that property in your name, then let's say it's a $500,000 house, and we won't include anything else like checking accounts or anything like that, just the home. If that home were to have to go through probate court to be then distributed to your heirs because you either had a will or had no will at all, then it would cost about $26,000 to go through probate court. That's the fees for the attorneys and the personal representative, and then costs on top of that for filing fees, bonds, publication. So almost $30,000 for a $500,000 house. Just for that.
My goodness.
So I mean, you're looking at some of the homes in Southern California looking $700-800 upwards of that, and then have other accounts included in that. It goes up by the amount and the value of the estate.
That's insane.
Yeah. So
my goodness.
So one of the ways to avoid probate and to not have that large amount is to have a trust.
Right.
And the trust is what the document that I just explained. And there is a difference, quite a difference between a will and a trust, because when you have a trust that's properly funded, meaning you have your home in the name of your trust, you have your accounts in the name of your trust, everything is set up correctly. If something happened to you and you passed away, there's no assets in your name. So there's nothing that would have to go through probate court. It all gets distributed according to your wishes in your trust. So while a trust is more expensive up front, more than a will, the amount of money and hassle it saves families from having to go through probate court is, it's just so much higher, that a trust is just no-brainer, is the best way to go, especially if you own a home.
So if they have no trust and no will, is there a way to avoid probate court potentially?
Well, I guess it depends on what assets they have.
Uh-huh.
So if they own a home as joint tenants, so with right of survivorship, then, if they passed away, that house would then just transfer to that other person. A lot of times people don't know how title is held on their deeds.
They have no idea.
They don't know. And, we get this all the time. They think that it's this way. And this is a really great exercise. Go look at your deed and find out. If you need help, call us, right? We can look at this to figure it out, because people don't know that. And if you own it in your own name, and something happened, there's really no other way to get that house to your family or the assets than to have to go through probate court. And people, people are amazed. It's a single parent and they just have 2 kids or even just 1 kid.
They're like, why do I have to do this?
Why do I have to go through this? Why can't the house just transfer to me? And I get calls like that all the time. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but it has to go through this process.
Otherwise, there'd be a lot of scamming going on. It has to be stamped, signed, and
court
delivered,
ordered and ready to go.
Court ordered,
Yes.
and title has to be put in the name that it should be, so you can either sell it or live in it. Otherwise, it never becomes your home.
And that happens a lot too.
Yes.
We find people that passed away years and years ago, and they just continued living in it, and then now we're trying to do something to help them, and we go back and look at title, and it's from 2 generations ago.
Oh my God, isn't that wild?
And then we have to go through probate at that point. And now we're trying to find family members that they haven't spoken to in 40 years.
And they're like, "Oh, here I am.
They have to be noticed.
I want that 50,000 I can possibly get, even though we haven't spoken in 30 years."
Yeah, because they want a piece of it because they're entitled to it. And that's what's really important about not having planning documents is you might unintentionally, somebody might get your stuff that you would never want to.
You never even dreamed of having them around. You probably even never met them.
Yeah.
It happens so often.
It does.
Like a half brother from another mother. But it actually happens in one of the cases I was dealing with. That was they lived in Texas, and this woman didn't like them. They weren't very nice to her. She met them once, like she was a little kid, and then they moved away because they were much older. But it was brothers from another mother.
Yes, and then they get part of it.
They got the party went on.
Yeah, or it happens a lot. I see it in blended families, where
I was just going to talk about that.
Where you have maybe a remarriage and maybe title wasn't moved over and shared jointly with the spouses, and that's a whole nother estate planning side, right?
Yes.
To make sure that your assets are going to your kids the way that you want them to, so that your kids aren't unintentionally disinherited if something happened to you. That's a huge thing, and I see it all the time. But when you have 2 spouses that are, maybe it's a blended family, an older marriage, and one of them doesn't get added onto title, then something happens to that spouse that has title, then that house with no planning documents goes to the kids.
Right.
And that spouse is now out.
That's right.
Right? Nowhere to live.
That's right. And it's interesting, because I'm in a lot of mommy groups and everything, and I hear people talking, and people have asked me questions, and they almost don't want to bring up the subject, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't want to rock the boat, right? There's a bunch of kids, there's ex-wives, ex-husbands. But I'm like, why? What? That's not rocking the boat, because they feel that maybe the other kid won't feel that there's a fairer deal going on. I said, can you imagine, like, if nobody gets anything later because it was tied up and they're all fighting?
Yep.
How would that feel? Yeah. And that's how you present it to them. We're going to have a family sit-down meeting, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to bat it out.
Yeah. Because
this is so important, and it, you never know what tomorrow brings, right?
Yeah.
How many people pass away and they're young? Yes. Right? And they were hit by a car, unfortunately. It's not only COVID, but they were hit by a car. and it's so sad. And then they have toilet paper and they have some notes on it that they find in a drawer somewhere, and that is no good.
Yeah. It does happen, and I think, like you were saying, communication and being open about it when you are doing planning is so important, because if you can communicate it to the family, it just makes it that much easier, so they're not caught off guard by it if something were to happen and then they found the plan. So definitely having that open communication, I find, is better, because then, maybe once you hear their side, maybe you change how some of the stuff is done.
Right.
But it at least doesn't catch them off guard that maybe they feel like they weren't cared for the way that they thought they were going to be.
Right. And it is actually could be a benefit, because the unknown is creepier than the known, right? The unknown is like you have those butterflies in your stomach. Oh my God, they love Julie more, whatever, and Stevie says they don't like me that much, and I'm just not going to say anything because I know I probably won't get anything. And then we really have this conversation, and Julie and Stevie get the same amount.
Yeah.
And Stevie's like, wow, I would have never thought that I had that. And that happens, the anticipation of anything, whether it's a move or a divorce or estate planning or trust or probate, the anticipation of the activity prior to it happening is where the worst part of people's feelings and emotions come up.
And they come up when it comes into probate and there's money involved. People change, right? And so one of our biggest things is to try and do estate planning with families to prevent probate, because then those families don't have to go through that, where they could potentially be torn apart over money.
Right.
And you see it so often that there's just a lot of fighting. And if there's not plans that are properly and legally laid out, it could cause a lot of issues for the families and parents. They don't want their kids to fight, but it could come up if the planning isn't done.
Right. And then, a lot of times people, if they don't want a third party, they can have a co-trustee. So it's like having a joint bank account. You can't go wipe it out and go shopping because the other person has to sign on it.
Yes.
And I think those are always great if they're two people that are competent and
they can get along.
And they get along, and they don't start to fight, right?
They need to get along.
So I know you have offices throughout California, which I'm so excited, because I myself work throughout California. People ask me, where's my area? I said, everywhere. I said, when I get a call from an attorney and they have something in Tulare County and then San Diego, we manage it. We are a virtual, where I go to a lot of places. I'll go to San Diego. I'll go to Ventura County. I do whatever, like yourself. You just want people that are competent and are willing to talk to you and give you the right advice. And Crista, I'm so excited to be working with you, and I would love for you to tell everyone how to reach you. And I know when you get back to the office, you can chime in with people on the comments on KHTS on the Facebook page.
Absolutely.
We also have an app they can download, so anytime you want to have people chime in and listen. But how did people get in touch with you?
So our law firm is Hermance Law. We have offices in Ventura, Santa Clarita, Westlake Village. We just opened an office in Calabasas. We have an office in Pasadena and Irvine. We also see clients virtually throughout the state of California. So you can go to iwanttoprotectmykids.com, and that will take you to our website. You can also text Will to 474747. And there's lots of information on our website. There's a probate calculator just to give you an idea of how much it actually costs to go through probate, because I think it's very eye-opening when you look at it that way.
And I know you have this wonderful organizer that you give people, because they write things down on little papers and a couple of, I do it too. I hate to say it. I'm organized when I have to do my work, but I'll do 3 words there, and then while I'm helping my kid do something, I'm writing it on the pad. And you have this wonderful, well thought out organizer for people to get their ducks in a row.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. They can actually download it for free from our website if you go to
amazing.
It's the Estate Planning Mom's Guide.
The Estate Planning Mom's Guide. Everybody, do you hear that? And you don't have to be a mom to get that. All you have to do is know someone that needs Crista, because you will. If you're alive and walking and you have a bank account, you will need her.
Yes.
So thank you again.
Thank you
For being on the show. And I could talk to you for hours. But
We
you're
have
always
before.
busy, and I'm
Yes.
always busy. I'm going to dinner now. Okay. But we get the job done.
Yes.
And people like you are just, I want you to be in my sphere of influence, because I know that when someone needs help, And sometimes it happens acutely. Yeah. Oh my God, what do I do? Uncle Johnny passed away, and Aunt Mary is like passing out, and I have been chosen to be doing something, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Right?
We do help with that.
Right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
What is this? And it doesn't matter, what college degrees you have, and if you're, masters and PhDs. When it comes to these things, and you have not been through it, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. So again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
When it comes to buying or selling your home, there's no room for error with your money. That's why Precision Escrow is the company you need to know. When selling your home, you want to make sure you're working with a company that has your best interest and keeps your money safe. That's why they use encrypted emails and secure trust accounting. Precision Escrow will follow the contract in detail from the beginning to the end and protect the parties involved. Working with Precision is like working with a huge family. Everyone is always smiling and cohesively working together for you. Check out their 5-star Yelp and Google reviews and see how they separate themselves from the competition. Whether you use an agent or sell your home yourself, they'll give you 30% off your transaction, which saves you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Use code RADIO30 to take advantage of the savings. Call Lauren Fredette, your representative, for more details. She's available 7 days a week during and after office hours. Call toll-free 877-393-4101. Let them help you through one of the most important decisions of your life.
Felicia Dorado Insurance Agency specializes in your small business, homeowners, auto, umbrella, and life insurance needs. Their personalized staff is passionate to help you save money while keeping all your valuable assets covered. During these times, many people are concerned about insurance and getting the best value for their dollar. Felicia Dorado's Insurance Agency understands this and approaches each situation uniquely. Felicia Dorado's Insurance Agency has friendly hometown customer service reps that are ready to help you today. 661-288-2001.
At Substrata, they're dedicated to be your go-to general contractor. They are a premier builder of high-end custom homes from the ground up, major remodels and expansions, multi-unit construction, and commercial tenant improvements for both retail and office build-out. Their focus on details and personal attention have been constant from conception of the project to completion. They build stories not with pen and keyboard, but with steel and manpower. Visit substrata.com or call 424-702-5700.
I love it.
Right on!
Your hometown station.
Hello, and welcome back to Listed by Mina Kuper. We're about trust, probate, estate, real estate, and more. And Crista, I had to have her back right now because we forgot one thing: the insurance part of all of this.
Yeah.
That is so important. So, Crista, talk about that, please.
So one thing that people don't really consider is when there are life insurance policies that people have. And a lot of times people don't really think about their life insurance policies. So it's really important. Go find your life insurance policies and look up who your beneficiaries are on your life insurance, because a lot of times people will get a life insurance policy maybe when they started a job, and then 10, 15 years later, they never updated it after they got married and had kids, and it's still maybe their parents or a sibling or even an ex that they had listed from before. I've had that happen in a meeting. It was not
that's
fun to deal with.
horrifying. Oh my gosh. Oh, what do you mean? Oh,
yeah,
this is great for him. It was
she
just
was
so
very
lucky.
upset about
Oh
that.
my
Yes,
goodness.
but luckily we found it and we caught it, and they could update it. But so it's really important to make sure that you have all of that information. One of the things that I think is really important that a lot of times people don't consider is that if you have minor children, so anyone under the age of 18, in the state of California, they can't actually receive money, right? Because they're a minor. And so if there's a life insurance policy where a parent passes away and they have their kids listed, which I see more often than not for whatever reason, not even their spouse, but their kids listed as the primary beneficiary. That money doesn't just go to the spouse, right? It can't go to the kids because they can't receive money because they're under 18. Yes. So then there has to be a guardianship that's open through the court, where that money then goes through the court process to be held in a court-blocked account for those kids
Yes.
until they're 18 years old.
Right.
And then they get all of that money in one lump sum.
Right.
And, mom probably needs that money
Right.
to help raise the kids.
That's right.
And so for the kids to be listed there, she doesn't get access to it. And so a lot of times I see clients that'll come in, because we do focus on families with minor kids and making sure parents know how to put plans in place to protect their kids, is that they'll have, spouses listed as the primary beneficiaries and then all of their kids listed equally as the backup beneficiaries. And so one of the great planning tools about a trust is you can actually list on your life insurance policy the beneficiary as the trust. So maybe have your spouses listed as the primary and then have the trust listed as the backup, so that if something happened to both spouses, then rather than that money go to the kids, it would go into the trust to be distributed according to your wishes for your kids, maybe at 25, 30, and 35, really spreading out those insurance policies, as well as just having that money in there so that guardians or the successor trustee can have that money to take care of the kids for whatever they need.
So let's say, hypothetically, because anything is possible, there's money left for the kids, let's say $20,000 each, hypothetically, and parent who left it to be in charge decides to go shopping and have a good time and doesn't do what is supposed to be done. So, well, that does happen because life changes and people have midlife crises and
they have the money available.
Yeah. So,
No, I see that. And people tell me all the time, well, I'll just list my sister or my brother or my uncle or my aunt, right, as the beneficiary. And they're like, absolutely, they're going to take care of it for my kids. Well, they might, but they don't have to.
Right.
Because if they're the beneficiary, then that money just goes to them. So there's nothing legally requiring them to have that money and hold it for your kids or even for their benefit. Whereas a trust, you can name that person that you wanted to be your beneficiary, you can name them as the trustee, and then they have these legal requirements. They have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that they are managing it for the benefit of your kids as the beneficiaries, and they can be held to that standard through the court if they decide to go spend that money. And so that's why I definitely don't recommend listing them as beneficiaries, but rather having that trust. And again, the trust is so much. It provides so much protection.
And you can have things and do a pour over will into the trust.
Yes.
And, insurance is so important. And we often hear things that went south because they didn't have proper advice. And it could have been from an attorney. It's just like going to a doctor, going to any professional that doesn't give the right advice all the time.
Or maybe they didn't understand what was being told to them, and they didn't do what was told, which I see a lot.
Yes.
It is confusing. It's a very, very confusing process.
Because beneficiary, and who does he do again? It's like you walk away and you're not realizing, the whole conversation. It didn't absorb because, and that's why, working with you and having that guide to write everything down, so you can go down and you can sit quietly and just, take it in and make sure you understand and have questions. And so you can take the proper steps to ensure safety for everyone, because it's not fun. And working with Crista is fun. Working with just shows you a good time.
We do. We try to make the process really easy, right? We are very technology inclined, but we have clients that are older and don't want to deal with stuff on the computer.
Right.
And I just had a client signing this afternoon that she was 85, and I met with her and went over all of the stuff. And it's important.
Yeah, it's important. So, I again want to thank you. Yeah. But now we can't come back anymore today.
Okay.
Another time. Although I'm sure, that we could just talk, right? There's so many different angles and what ifs. And Crista, thank you so much. And I'm excited about you having all your offices throughout Southern California.
Thank you.
And doing such a great job and helping everyone and getting the reviews when I send people over to you about how wonderful you were to work with.
Good.
It's just, yay, I'm on her team too. She's awesome. So I root for you and have a good time.
Good. Thank you.
You're doing your golf lesson.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to tell anyone? You can have a little fun too. Work hard.
I do.
Play a little hard.
With my kids.
Yes.